So I guess anything you guys want to talk about in particular?
You want to finish what you were talking about?
What was I talking about?
We were talking about North Carolina.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I have such limited time, W-2, family, all that stuff, that I'm really trying to find ways to like actually accomplish this goal, but not in 20 years. It's like, how am I going to actually make this happen faster?
Yeah.
So, we were basically talking about like me acquiring multifamily in North Carolina, but how I can accelerate the process. And like, I think we talked about this last time of like bringing in Freedom to like do the acquisition magic that they do in general, and being able to use that as that part of the team or foundation that I need in order to accelerate and actually start submitting offers and all this stuff. Yeah. So,
you ever consider like kind of like a macro Parkinson's law? Are you familiar with Parkinson's law?
I don't think so.
So like you've heard of like Murphy's law, Parkinson's law, something like that, except it's to the extent we get things accomplished in whatever amount of time we give ourselves. So obviously if like we're like, oh, I don't have to get this done until the end of the day. At some point today, oftentimes we'll take it. We'll basically dilute our efficiency in order to fill it all in. And I'm sure there's a little bit of variability on that, but I find, at least for me, for a procrastinator, it's 100% accurate. If I'm like, I got to go to this meeting and cover these things, it'll take 2 hours. Whereas if I'm like, I have to go to this meeting, I have a lot to do today, I have the same amount of things, but I need it done in 30 minutes, I make sure I stay on point, and therefore I'm more efficient. So Parkinson's law to me is like a absolute hack. I love it. Like just being aware of it.
There's a book, right? It's based on that theory, I believe. The 3 month a year.
I believe you. I haven't read the book.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about.
It's based on that idea. Like if you say I'm going to do this in a year, then it's going to take you a year.
Absolutely.
But if you say if you do everything in like 3 month years, then you'll do it in 3 months.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Elon Musk's book, by the way, is that's like one of the overall themes.
Elon Musk, who's that?
His book. You guys ever read it? It's fucking sick.
I just finished it. It's a biography by Isaacson or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was bro. Isn't that the overall theme though? Like the whole that people are like, why we can't get this done in X amount? He's like, get it done. Right.
Yeah.
And it's that idea.
And a nice way to say that, to like, especially if you're leveraging time with say realtors or lawyers or whatever else, a really fun, nice way that I've trying to utilize now of saying that to people, because we have to leverage other people in order to get these things accomplished. Right. So as we're sitting here now, I have people working on multiple things, as you have to. I'm sure you guys do as well. Yeah. I have somebody down in my South Jersey house. I have another broker discussing a deal with my partner. Like, you have to do it. But one of the things I say, somebody else taught me this, was something along the lines of like, I understand I have like such high expectations, or I'm expecting a lot, but it's only because I know you're capable of this. Yeah. I know you're capable of fitting this in. I had a conversation with my architect today. Same thing. We're doing a development, you know, the building I'm talking about. It's that $9 million or whatever. It's my first indication. But he's like, oh, but the impervious coverage ratios, we can't get it in. Oh, but the parking ratios or whatever. And I'm like, okay, but I need to know what we can go for without any variances. And I know it's difficult, but you are capable of this. I have high expectations because I know how capable you are. Yeah. And guess what? He's getting it done. Right. 100%. Like, he just called me to say, oh, I got one more thing to figure out, but I think we got this. And I'm like, absolutely. You got this.
That makes sense. Like the agent that was talking to you about in PA, I guess he didn't understand this, like how big we were and how like small his questions were to us. So I had to empower him one day. I'm like, listen, man, I trust that you're gonna make a better decision than me because you're local to the area. You know the buyers. I don't know. And like, so I'm gonna rely on you. So if you're telling me this second offer is the best offer, just do me a favor. Tell me you're gonna go with the offer. Put the wheels in motion. Send me an email update. And if the answer is no, or I need to intervene, I'll intervene. But just keep going, bro. I don't want to stop you. Like, you got this. You're better than me anyway.
And removes you from it, so you can accomplish other things.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What's cool about that, like all of that understanding about process and like efficiency and not being a roadblock, is it's one of the reasons why I'm not super excited to quit my W-2. Is because I get to practice those things in my W-2 all the time, and I get really good at it. And I'm able to like, I mean, I'm sitting here right now, technically I'm at work, right? But like, I'm able to sit here because I have systems in place that allow me to do things to step away from the processes because they're running.
Do you think because it's a W-2, even abstractly, you've created harder boundaries in which you have to operate that maybe is not translating to your entrepreneurial journey? Because it's other people holding you accountable as opposed to yourself?
Yes, for sure. 100%. And that's the tough part. That's what I was going to say that too about would you say Parkinson's theory?
Parkinson's, I think it's called Parkinson's law. I have to double check, but I'm pretty sure it's considered Parkinson's law. Like we accomplish things in the amount of time we give ourselves to accomplish them.
It's okay. This is a great example of this actually. So the last 2 weeks for me have been very challenging. I think I talked to you guys already about like marriage situation that was just like very bumpy, and I was just like, oh man, and everything kind of went to shit. But I was actually able to keep some things going, like goals that I like weekly or daily goals that I had. I was able to accomplish. Why? It wasn't me. It wasn't because I wanted to. It wasn't because I like got up out of bed and I was like, I'm going to do the thing that I said I was going to do. It was because I knew that other people were waiting, like they were going to be in that meeting and I had to show up to the meeting, or we had scheduled something. Basically, there were other people that I had to show up for. And I mean, it kind of sucks even saying that out loud, but it's like, it's easier to show up it's often easier for me to show up for other people than it is for myself, which is saying that out loud.
So they did a study on that. They did an interesting study on that where they looked at people, like, because it's what you're saying, I'm sure most, if not everybody, can relate to it some sense or another. It's like, I care about, we're always nicer to our friends than we are to ourselves, right? Especially if you're high achieving and you have high aspirations. But they did an interesting study about people with their prescription medicine for themselves and their pets. And people are way more on top of the time, not forgetting exactly when they're supposed to, when it's for an animal, than when it's for their own mental health, physical health, whatever.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it does. But it's not necessarily intuitive. You would think, oh, I care about myself more.
It's the same exact thing, dude. I literally, on my desk, I have a bottle of multivitamins that I take probably once a month. Literally every day, I give my kids multivitamins after they eat. I literally could just take it at the same time that they do, and I don't.
Yeah, habit stack it.
That's normal. Especially like as parents, like that's where it's like it's super clear.
Oh yeah,
I feel like because you do anything to make sure that your kid's good, and
absolutely.
Like, but you're like a slob.
Absolutely. Like if it comes to like something I have to, actually, I'll take that back. I think unfortunately I get a little complacent when it comes to my wife. Yeah. I don't think I almost treat her like I treat me. In the sense that I don't hold her to my expectations at all. Never have, even with finances. Like you can spend whatever you want. Like when I went through that phase, you guys know about it. We won't have to get into it, but I went through that phase where I was like sleeping out of my fucking car and just not spending money on coffee for years on end, like years on end. It was like a couple of years, but it felt like forever.
Yeah.
Not buying coffee, sleeping 3 hours a night, working like 18 to 20 something hours a day. All that to save as much as I could to get into the real estate game because I thought you need more money than you do. I've learned other strategies since then. But my wife, no, you want to go to your friends, you're going on vacation with your friends, that's all you. I never had her sacrifice. So to that extent, no. But when I'm like, yeah, I'll be home at 5, it's like 5:45, I haven't left yet. And she's like, you always do this. And I'm like, you're right. And I wouldn't do it to you or you. I was early today. Like my broker friend, he owns a brokerage and I partner with him some shit, but he was like, Paul time is accurate. Like like when it comes to work, I'm fucking on it.
Yeah.
My wife, when you hear Paul time, she's like, oh, so like maybe next year, maybe. And I got to fix that.
100%. You know, it's crazy. Like, because I feel like we all deal with the same thing. Because Amaris will say the same exact thing. Like, she's like, yes, Ronnie, the meetup ends at 1:30. I'll see you at 5.
Yep.
You know, and I'm like, damn, like jiu-jitsu ends at 1. I'll see you at 2:30.
Yep.
I'm like, yo, I got to stop this.
And it's like, to them, I can understand. I'm guessing your wife does the same thing. Mm-hmm. My wife will tell me, like, you're saying one thing, like you care about me more. Because honestly, in my heart, I know I do. If I had to choose real estate, jiu-jitsu, whatever, 100% would pick my wife. It's just my values. I'm a Catholic, like
for sure.
My wife comes first, but my actions aren't showing it. So I can't blame her for not feeling that way because my actions are showing her that I am consistently, we have competing values, right?
Yeah.
Both are values: work, play, wife. In that competition of values, time to time, consistently, I'm choosing to follow up with real estate or jiu-jitsu or the gym or whatever. And that I got to stop. But that's all about honoring your values and competing values.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, Prince, what are you going to do to unfuck this?
Yeah. I was like, with that being said.
No, I mean, I think it's just a matter of, so the way that I've hacked it is I just keep adding more people. And if I add you guys, you better believe that I'm going to show up when I'm like sick and tired or don't feel like it. Of course I'm going to show up. But when to the same point, it's like, if it's just me, it's a lot easier to just be like, and I pretty much do honor like what I put in my calendar, right? I'll do the thing that's in my calendar, but I know I could do more, or I know I could do it like more intensely. But it's just like, some days I'm just like, I just need to get the check that I did the thing. But I know if someone's there, like when I'm in the meeting with my VA, I give her everything that I can because I want to respect her time. So that's the hack for me. It's just add more people, like have people involved so that it's much harder for me not to show up.
Yeah.
Do you guys ever? Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say like that. I think more important is to know yourself. Like I know I'm not Paul, right? But I know, for example, like Ryan, him and Paul are similar in the sense that like they don't need anyone to hold them accountable. They are self-starters. And I think a long time ago, I was like, I'm not that. I'm somewhere in between you and you. Where like, so I found a book, they call it The Entrepreneur.
I love when you explain this to me. Go on.
Bro, I'm not an entrepreneur. Like I've made that decision a long time. People ask me, Ron, you could do what freedom does on your own. Why haven't you ever considered it? And it's like, because I know who I am, and I'm an entrepreneur. So I guess I'll reverse engineer it. So an entrepreneur, right? Like there is no cap to their vision, right? That like Paul, you'd be like, oh, Paul, what you want to do? Paul will say some wild shit.
It is disorienting as well.
And people can't handle that, and I can't handle that. I can't even consider what he'd be saying sometimes, like the thing that you're doing now. I'm like, what the fuck? I call it. It's like, well, I don't even know what you're doing. But what I learned is that I'm really good at is within the rules that I'm given, I'll turn that into my own game. So, right, like I might not be able to govern a whole state, but I'll be a hell of a mayor for the city. So
reminds me of chess, though. You have infinite moves within a finite amount of rules.
Exactly.
Finite system, yeah.
So I won't be able to create the game of chess.
Yeah.
But I'll be able to dominate the game of chess because there's a finite amount of like moves, and I'll figure out every way because that I can get obsessed with.
Yeah.
So I think the point I'm trying to say is like knowing yourself is like there's nothing wrong. It is what it is. Like you didn't choose this, right. But you denying it. And then like a year goes by, 2 years go by, and because you don't want to acknowledge that this is just who you are, right? And it's going to take more effort to try to be Paul than just be Paul.
Yeah,
he's not working to be this. He can't help himself.
Yeah, when I tried the I can't fucking do it. I've had multiple jobs, like W-2 jobs, since I was on the paper, 13 or 14. I started working at Harley Davidson in Rahway. And in high school, I had 3 W-2 jobs. But all the while, I had my first LLC when I was 11, I think. Like I can't stand. I've had, my wife's like, oh, you worked everywhere. I've had like probably 30 to 40 something W-2s because it's just, I can't, after like 6 to 12 months, I'm like, this is fucking boring. I know I just can't do it. And that's why the Marine Corps was so fucking hard for me. Because like they're coming up with all these ideas and it's a lot of rigidity, especially at the lower ranks like I was at. You just had to do it. And I'm like,
what's rigidity?
Like non-flexible.
Okay.
Like so it was rigid.
Oh, like rigid.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So like, master orders come down from here to here to here, and even if I see a more efficient way, I can't bring it up. And there's a purpose for that, right? Because like if God, we're in combat or something like that, they can't be like, all right, storm the right side. I'm like, hold up, what if? Like there's a point to it, but that's why the environment was very uncomfortable for me. So I had to force my way out of that to get to the environment, which is more, even though it's like I'm comfortable with the discomfort of not being 100% sure what to do, and the infinite possibilities is something I love. Like Legos. If you guys ever played with Legos, I should have known this from a kid. This is a great aptitude test, I think, for entrepreneurs, in my humble, idiotic opinion. I would get Lego gifts when I was like 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever, because I was a boy and everybody's like, oh, you must love Legos. It could be for the Starship Enterprise, could be for whatever, where you just put them together. Never, ever, ever wanted to build any of that shit.
That's wild.
Yeah, ever.
That's so wild.
what'd you do?
I built whatever the fuck I wanted.
What is wrong with you?
I would build different things and I would create games out of it. Like maybe I'd build multiple towers and see which one had better structure by throwing Legos or Lego cars that I made out of it or whatever else. Like I always want, and same thing in school. Like I used to get in the biggest arguments with my teachers because they're like, you have to do this. And I'm like, at a young age, I'm like, that's arbitrary. Why? Now, was it arbitrary? Not necessarily. It depends on the person. Right? For a lot of people, it makes a lot of sense. That I didn't get. But I think what you're bringing out right now is so true. It's discover yourself so that you can put yourself in the right environment. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what your environment is for you or for you. But for me, it took me like 30, I mean, I've kind of always known, but it took me a long time to be like, oh, even if I'm going to fail, this is the environment for me. Even if I'm going to fail. But I'm definitely going to fail if I put myself in the wrong environment.
Yeah. I think that's all it is. Like, and it is what it is. Like, especially at this age, like this is who you are for the most part.
One is not better than the other, by the way. 100%.
And they're both needed. Like
all three are needed.
Yeah, I'm sorry, all three. So if you think E-Myth, you have the what do you call it? The technician, the manager, and the dreamer.
Yeah.
I'm not a dreamer. Like I can't fathom like for example, like we're buying short-term rentals and like wholesaling. I did not come up with that idea. But now that I know this is where we're going, I'm like, okay, so we're going that way. Okay, I'm gonna make sure we accelerate this. Like this is where I come in now because I'm playing within the rules that I know where we're going. But I need guys like the guys I work with to tell me, Ronnie, this is where we're going, and then I'll be like, and I have to, you build trust with these guys, and I was like, I got you. I'm gonna make sure we accelerate this 5x or 2 or whatever x.
Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I actually think life is harder in the reverse. So the out of the three, let's say the dreamer, I think life is the hardest, and you're most likely going to fail. Personally,
for sure,
honest opinion. Technician, a little bit in between. What was the one underneath?
Manager is in the middle.
Manager, okay.
And then you have the technician.
Yeah, I think like again, inversely is the likelihood of success, the likelihood of ease, so it's not a good thing. Like Jordan Peterson points out, it's not you wouldn't necessarily wish for creativity because it operates outside of what most normative standards.
Exactly.
It's not necessarily good. It's very unlikely you succeed. There's how many singers are out there? Millions. Yeah. How many do you fucking know?
Yeah, 4.
Okay. Yeah. It's anyway. But you were about to speak.
Well, I was just laughing because like the not irony, but what's really fascinating though about watching you work, like I've literally sat in a living room with with a tenant and watched you work, is that you're saying that you like to have some construct around you, but it seems like you get the most joy and like most energy from just fucking that construct up. Just like, how am I going to fuck this? I'm just going to like, this wall is supposed to be here. What happens if we just push it 3 inches out? What happens if we lift the ceiling a little bit? You know what? I'm gonna rearrange it so it's a triangle. It's supposed to be a square. I'm making it a triangle. Let's see what happens.
Though. It's different, right? You know why? Because what I'm good at is breaking the agreed upon procedure.
Yeah, you're Picassoing it. You know the rules well enough where you can break them.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's not that I'm like I'm gonna create a new kind of tenant. I would never say that. Like I would never create Airbnb.
Yeah.
But once I know that loophole is there,
right,
then you send me. It'll be like, Ronnie, newfound like game.
Right.
Go dominate it. And I'll be like, all right.
Yeah.
But I'll never break the rule of tenant landlord relationship. That construct is still there. It still exists. There's a tenant and there's a landlord. How I communicate from being a landlord or a buyer to tenant, that's all me right here. This little game that everyone plays the same way, I'm going to come in from another route.
So do you think, though, that you challenge every aspect of a construct and to figure it out? Or are there certain, because you said just now, like, I accept that there is a tenant and there's a landlord, right? And then, so you're accepting that part of the construct. Are you saying there are some areas that you won't test and other areas that you will, or you test everything? But once you realize like it's been tested by you, that now you're agreeing like, okay, that's the thing, and I'm gonna leave it like that for now.
So I guess think of it like chess. I think that's a good way to think about it. Everybody, let's say, there are certain rules, right? So white starts first, if I'm not mistaken, right? It's in chess, right? White, whatever that represents. So I'm not gonna disrespect that rule. I'm not gonna be the one to be like, "No, I'm gonna play chess from now on this way." Right? Like, all right, white starts first. Everyone moves the pawn first. I'm gonna be the one I'll probably be the first one to move the knight first.
Do you think that question might? Excuse me. Do you think that question might have an implicit projection from the person asking it? Because there's a dichotomy there, right? Do you start from this way or that way? Like, do you challenge all the constructs and then come in? Where, to me, when I hear that question, it doesn't really make sense to me, because like I actually have my own thoughts, and then I end up bumping into constructs, and then I evaluate the construct that I'm bumping into with my original idea.
Oh, I'm the opposite.
Yeah. So like, to me, it's like I don't think of like, okay, whatever. I kind of think, what can I do? What constructs exist? Then I kind of end up inevitably challenging those constructs to see if they hold water for my plan, or if I can get around them, and if I can, or if I cannot, how can I get around them? Because I'm a big believer, like the whole where there's a will, there's a way. Yeah. Like when you have to do something, you will succeed. Like what does Nietzsche say? The how, any how can be explained with the strong enough why, or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So and time again for my life, like that's been proven to be true. So that's how I operate now. So when I have an idea or whatever, there's something I want to do, the constructs, I don't even think about it. I kind of bump into them. Where I think for some people, they look at the constructs and then work within that to figure out what they're going to do.
That's what I do.
Okay.
Yeah. So I already have an established set of like rules that I know most people follow. And I'll be like, yeah, but they never looked at it this way. But it's still it's still okay to go this way, because it still goes for like on the grand scheme of things. Like
I think that's where
you're like an engineer. An engineer, sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, that. I feel like that's. I think I lost my thought. But I feel like I'm just remembering. That's what I was gonna say. I feel like it's the question. The observation is like it's the art versus the science of anything, right? It's like how much of it is like rules based by nature, almost to the highest extent, right? Like you can't. It's really hard to like challenge gravity, right? Like gravity, speed of light, like these things are like constant, right? But then other things can be challenged, and I just think about it from the perspective of how do you balance those two? How do you know when something is a thing that, like when you say bump into something,
I'll give you an example.
If you bump into it and it's like a hard wall and you're just like, okay, this it's really hard to move this, but you do another thing and it's like, oh, it's kind of easy to move. This one I know that I can mess around with because it's easier to mess around with, right?
I think a lot of it's also perception. So for example, the two examples you gave was the speed of light and gravity, right?
Yeah.
So I think it depends how you see it. So, for example, gravity, the speed of light, what math is it measured with an L or whatever is the representation of the speed of light. So, the universe actually expands faster than the speed of light. So, even though it's a regulating body in our physical universe, we know it's not necessarily a regulating body everywhere, unless you want to say it's expanding into nothing, which would be everywhere. But anyway, I'm not a physicist. But my point is, things do move faster. For example, the expansion. Also, on paper, you can make it move faster easily, L plus whatever. So, like, we can conceptually still go past it, even if you can't. And similar with gravity, right? Okay, gravity might have be a constant, but it depends on your application if you're just assuming. Because if you just assume gravity is a constant, if you don't look at it creatively, like, how can I work through this? It's not that you're changing the constant. It's that you're looking at it, operating in it differently. For example, planes fly. Okay, another example, when you're out of the atmosphere or whatever, you would it's a vacuum, so you might just float. Like, even though gravity is a constant, it's not it doesn't necessarily affect you in the most, it doesn't necessarily affect you in the way people might immediately think of it. When people think of gravity, think of walking, everything's touched. There's ways around that.
Yeah, you know, and that's exactly why I changed it from like you can't mess with these things to it's hard to, right? Because you can mess with everything. If you like going around a black hole, it's going to change, right?
Especially conceptually, right? Like conceptually, you can mess with anything, like light, gravity, change number. I mean, you can have the concept,
right? And it's all relative too. So it's like depending on.
That's the main thing. Because I'll say it's not that it's hard, right? It's hard for you,
right?
And like that's what I'm saying. It's important to know these things. Like these aren't bad things. Like if it's hard for you. and you don't get. I always try to think like if it's hard for me, it's easy for somebody else, and they're gonna dominate me because they're gonna do it all the time. Because that's just what that's like if someone is finding their enjoyment out of doing this thing and it's hard for me to do it, good luck. Good luck beating that guy.
Right. Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I'm good. I'd rather team up with that guy.
Yeah.
Because that psycho probably struggles in something else.
Right.
So now it's like figuring out like everything else, like to see if, there's some kind of cohesion or potential teamwork. And now that I feel like that's how you scale like big. Like, yo, bro, you're really good at this. Like, but like this thing is all behind you is just falling apart. Like, I trust that your vision is correct. Let me go behind you here. And I'm just going to mold everything to continue to support this crazy vision that you have.
But to your point, I mean, it all comes down to, so much of it comes down to self-awareness. And I think a lot of people, that is where they struggle, or if I could use a stronger word, like fail. Like they don't, and sometimes it's not even just the self-awareness, but to your point earlier, it's like accepting where, like who you are, who you've become, and like leaning into it, right? And it's interesting because the last message in church was about your anointing and knowing what you're anointed for. And they would like bringing up a story in the Bible where I'm totally gonna forget this dude's name, but this guy was chosen to be the next prophet. Oh, it was Elijah and Elisha. Elisha was being chosen to take over Elijah's place as a prophet. And part of it was just like understanding that other people were also anointed, but they were going to be in second place to him, right? And some people are just going to shine in second place. Like some people are just good, they're just going to do amazing things in second place, right? Like, but I think the way that our society, Western society is like structured, it's like everybody thinks that you want to be in first place, but no, like sometimes like you're the guy who's sweeping the floor and you're going to be like the best guy ever sweeping the floor, and that's okay.
And it's a necessary function.
And it's necessary, like, right. It's like you can't have a number one without a number two. Like you need that support, right?
Absolutely.
It's very interesting.
My mom used to tell me a story about, I don't know if it's a true story. I don't know, but I love the idea. Simply put, paraphrased, when we went to the moon, right? They were interviewing somebody who worked at...
We went to the moon. Sorry.
I was so funny. I know the same thing. I was like, we.
Okay, well, when the lizard people gave us the orders, anyway, there was a guy, they were interviewing people at NASA or whatever, and then one of the guys that came up was a janitor. He's like, "Hey, so what do you do here at NASA?" Walking into the building, "What do you do here?" "Oh, I sent a rocket to the moon." And it was like, "Well, what do you do?" He's like, "Oh, I'm the janitor." But I love that message because yes, he did. Without his contribution of health standards and everything else, you can't have anything else, right? It's like saying the president's number one, we don't matter. It's like, well, without us, you don't have a president. So like you need it's like an ecosystem.
Yep.
Right? It's not one is better than the other. Like the shark might be at the top of the food chain, but I'm sure there's things that if did not exist, then the shark would not exist. So they're equally reliant on something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, they're 100%. I really hate that idea of like, it's like certain people might get the glory because they're the forefront, but that's why there's that term unsung hero, right? Because, most heroes, their songs don't get sang, but they're still there. And there's a lot of nobility in that, in my opinion.
Yeah. Bro, what's the most important position, positions in the NFL? It's like the O-line.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And everybody the quarterback
Give me one O-line's name.
Right. That's hard.
You really, I can give you a couple, but I'm just saying.
Is there like
in
Douglas,
general,
perhaps
there's
like
no
Douglas?
star.
Trent Williams is the most famous one
Yeah.
from the Niners. But what I'm saying is like these guys, it's just wild.
Then they get paid way less and everything
Yeah.
else. However, their function is absolutely
and
necessary.
they bang every time
Yes.
you hear hike.
Yeah.
Literally, they're sacrificing the most.
Yes.
Literally, it's a collision
Absolutely.
every time.
They probably have shorter careers than the quarterback.
100%.
Who gets the MVPs and everything else. Now,
Solely quarterback at this point.
absolutely. And then you can make an argument, even like I love your example of football because I was thinking it earlier. Every time I think of something like, know yourself, know your strength or whatever. Any organized sport with teams generally, not any, but a lot of them speak to that because know yourself. You're a 400-pound dude. You're probably not going to be the best running back, right? Whatever. There's different roles, but when you put them together in a cohesive way, that's how you have a winning team. You don't get a bunch of, decathletes, right? Who are likely extraordinarily athletic people. Put them on a football team, they're going to get ran the fuck over.
Exactly.
Because even though overall they're the best, they're not the best at O-lines because you got a guy weighing $180 doing a decathlon, and you got, Trent, whoever you're talking about. I don't know, but he's probably a big dude running right through him.
Yeah.
It's not going to matter. So we all have our strengths. You just got to recognize them so then you can optimize them and direct them.
Yep.
So
and I think the faster you can make peace with it and learn how to compensate.
Discover it too.
Yeah, and discover it. Like, and then accepting it. Like being vulnerable to yourself, being vulnerable to our significant other. Like, and then how do you communicate that to your significant other so she can see that this is not you making an excuse, rather this is your way of showing vulnerability and kind of trying to figure out a way to figure this out, right? Like I'm a very dry person, right? Like my parents, we had
I'm slippery.
Yeah, like bro, I'm sneaking. I'm
very ashy.
Yeah, but bro, dry, super dry. Like because my parents, we had a business relationship, so I naturally, right? That's all I know. Like at 13, I got to work, I got to produce this amount of money to contribute. That's how we do it. So naturally, that's all I know. It's too late. It's ingrained in my head. So it's like now it's
also
my
a
job.
genetic component to it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But how do you communicate that now? To not make it an excuse, but rather like, like I struggle with this. I need you to hold me accountable. If you think I'm being too strict or I'm being extremely logical.
That's my problem in my relationship, overwhelmingly.
For sure. But I think, how do I say it? Like if it's an ongoing thing, I just feel like there's two ways to go about it. You can either try to change me, good luck, right? I
can't even change me.
No, I think we evolve for sure. Like Pokemon, right? Like Charmander goes into Charmeleon,
absolutely,
but Charmander will never evolve into Squirtle.
Absolutely,
right?
Or War Turtle, or whatever the fuck you guys want to.
It's Charmander, Charmeleon, Charizard, right? So he's evolving into a better version of himself.
Absolutely,
but
Charizard
never
is a guy.
That's actually such a good fucking analogy.
I use it.
It really is,
bro.
It's like
I use it all the time,
dude. It's such a good analogy because you can become better, but you cannot be something else.
No,
love that.
No. I think, but rather, and that's okay. But I think now, how do you communicate that to everybody else?
So are dittos just sociopaths?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. You ever seen The Office, Andy Bernard, that he just mirrors the manager? That's that.
Yeah. Creepy.
Fucking psycho. Yeah.
Anyway, go on. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. But yeah, so I think going back to like the partners and stuff, I think especially knowing you guys, like and me, myself, like I'm sure we struggle with that. Like we're great. On paper, we're great.
Yeah. It's interesting though.
I'm always so mean to myself. I can never call myself great. I'm always just like, my wife hates it.
No. That's what I'm trying to say. On paper, we're great.
Oh, okay.
We are very like, we're pieces of shit. Like we got to get our shit together. We got to do better, which is, if you ask me, I think I'd rather live that way than the other way.
Like, I want whatever's going to spur me to grow.
Yeah.
What?
No, I was just saying, it's like Dunning-Kruger.
Can you explain Dunning-Kruger? I mean, you said it to me before.
But I don't know. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's like, I think there was like a whole test. This was like a psychology experiment where they tested people, 2 different groups. And I think it was like essentially the people who, the end result is the people who thought that they just thought that they did really well on the test. They thought they were really smart, tended to be the people who did the worst. And the people who were harder on themselves, they were like, oh man, I probably failed that test. I probably didn't do a good job. Those are the people who tended to do actually the best.
I wonder how you can reconcile that with, I mean, I'm sure it's a way, I just got to think it through. Like, how would you reconcile that with, what's it called? When you believe you're going to do well, so therefore you do. Self-fulfilling prophecy, excuse me. How do you reconcile that with self-fulfilling prophecy? I guess because one's pre and one's post, maybe? I don't know, because self-fulfilling prophecy, obviously you guys know, you tend, if you're always like, oh, the whole world's against me, blah, blah, blah. Well, you act that out, so therefore you don't take the same amount of chances, or it's like, oh, I can't pass this test no matter what. You act it out. You don't study or whatever you do. Yeah. Or, hey, I know I can ace this. I know I can do a good job. You're more likely to do what it takes to get there. Like, most people have to believe they're going to succeed if they're going to succeed. Is it paradoxical though, the Dunning-Kruger effect, or no? Is it
I don't think so. I think it's because I think you can recognize that you're really good at something. I think the important part is to recognize also that you can be better, and that there are other people that are definitely, there's 100%, there's somebody out there, there are billions of people on this planet that's better than you.
Absolutely they may not me, man.
I'm a stud.
Yeah. I'm 5'7", bro. Like, I'm a beast.
So I think it is. I think we can't, and it's hard. I think for the people who tend to be those people who beat up on themselves, it's hard to like give yourself, like, I'm one of those people. Like, I don't, like, I have to be reminded, oh, do you see how much you've done? Like how far you've come? I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's in the past. It doesn't matter. Like, I need to keep growing and getting better or whatever. So it's like, I think it is good to have that perspective and just remember like the accomplishments that we've made and like how far we've come, but just realize that that's not the end. Like, it's just, there's so much more, and there's always going to be somebody better.
Do you guys follow Alex Hormozy at all?
Yeah, for sure.
So like, he has this thing that's interesting for like really successful people. Like, people try to say, oh, it's the guy's diet, or he wakes up at 4 a.m. and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, that's all fucking bullshit. What it actually ends up being, I think it's like, it's people that believe they're extremely capable. Like, maybe they think they're better than everybody else or whatever. Paradoxically, they also feel like they're never good enough. And then they're able, I think it's conscientiousness, where they're able to make a plan and actually stick to it for the long run. Those are like the hyper successful people. And it kind of makes sense. Like, I feel like I can do it. But then you, at the same time, you have that gadfly always hitting you that like, you can do more. You're not doing enough. You're not enough. So it keeps spurring you. So you have the belief along with enough doubt to keep fucking, whacking yourself to keep going. And you can actually stick to the fucking direction or whatever you're planning.
You know what helps with that?
Please tell me.
Some kind of not life-threatening trauma, just a little bit, enough to give you something.
Just a little bit trauma.
Just to like me being like, I guess now seeing, I was like, oh shit, I was poor. That was always in the back of my mind.
You wish you were poor?
No, like me growing up, like I guess compared to like, I guess seeing now, I didn't know I was poor at the time, but I was like, oh shit, we were pretty like broke.
Yeah, American standard poor probably.
Yeah. But still, I'm like, oh, like sometimes we had to eat a certain thing because we just had no money.
Yeah, same. Or had no food. I've had to go to friends' houses.
Exactly.
Like,
so I think that helps too, though. Like with that, like, for me, I developed. I got the. I don't want to say trauma because I feel I'm being unfair. I'm not trying to be politically correct, but I just feel like that's not the right word.
How do you define trauma?
Yeah.
But I would call it trauma.
Okay, fuck it. So
for myself, I would.
Yeah. So I already got the trauma. So I think what helped me out later on was developing like the confidence and the I guess I was talking to my buddy about this. It helps when you start realizing that no one counts your strikeouts but yourself. People only count your home runs, right? Like, right, you guys don't know unless I tell you, you guys don't know all the bad things that's happened to me, but you can probably highlight all the good things I've done, right? Think about it.
That is interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think once you start learning that consciously or subconsciously, then you're like, fuck it. I'm just going to keep going for it and going for it and going for it because only the home runs are accounted for.
But here's a question though. When you think about that trauma, it sounds like being a part of, or maybe a significant part of the fuel that allowed you to get to where you are. And this is also an introspective question that I struggle with. How, and every rapper, how do you stay hungry? Because now
gotta be fucked up.
I go to this literally happens to me, and every time it happens, I'm just like, this is not good. This is dangerous. I go into a supermarket. I go into a store. Last night, I went to buy paper plates and cups or something.
What did it cost?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I knew you were going with that because that started happening to me too.
It was a pack of plates like this and a stack of cups like this. It could have been $100, and I just didn't even fucking I didn't even look. I didn't ask the guy.
Starting from the bottom, now you're here.
But that's the thing. I always keep thinking in my head, like Biggie Smalls had this one line.
From Juicy?
No, not Juicy. That's what I don't like Juicy. That's one of my least favorite.
That's my favorite.
One line. 996 grams. You need 4 more. It's like you don't have, like, I don't care if you got 996 grams. I need the kilo. I need the key. And just because you have this stack this high, you're not there. You're not fucking there. And that's like, I literally say this to myself often. I'm like, 996 grams.
That's the best part about it. Then the game never ends. And if you love the game,
but that's the thing. But you have to, but what happens when you let go of that? What happens when it escapes you? What happens when, like,
well, then maybe the game depends on the person you ask, but maybe the game for you is enough. Like, maybe that's enough for you. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not enough.
No, it is something wrong with that. I don't want it to be enough.
Well,
I don't
then it likely won't be.
The game, then you chose a finite game.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what it is.
Like, talk about that a lot.
Yeah. The infinite, you got to look for the infinite game, because the infinite game allows you're not looking for, like, there's no end game to it. It's just keep getting better and better and better. But there is no end game to it. Like, that's why
but that can also be discouraging. I mean, like, when it's like.
Depends. Because that's when self-reflection comes into play. Like, jiu-jitsu is the easiest one to do this with, right? Like, I'll be like, oh shit. Like, I look at where I'm at now in terms of when I started jiu-jitsu. I'm probably going to do jiu-jitsu probably indefinitely, assuming I don't get like crazy hurt because of that. Because I'm never going to be the best, but I know it's giving me, for one, instant feedback, which is awesome. Getting choked out, you're like, I fucked up. But it allows you to constantly be getting better at something, but never mastering it. So it puts me in a position where I'll never feel like stagnant.
Dude, but here's the thing that's tricky for me. I don't know if you guys go through this too, is that when I was going to eat like lunch in the summer for free at school, that was like, you try to get 2, and then you want to get like the certain days you want to go 3 times. But anyways, but that's the thing that's tricky for me right now is like the instant feedback. When I was eating fucking ramen noodles like every day, the feedback was like I got a paycheck and I could get like a burger or something, and I was like, that's fucking instant feedback. And it feels like the spaces between like the next level is not as hard. It, like, growing up in the Bronx, like, it was hard. Like, I felt it every day. It was hard. But like now it's like it's easier to rest because it doesn't feel hard anymore. And I'm always afraid that I'm going to self-sabotage because I want that feeling. I want the feeling of like staying hungry, and I'm like, fuck, am I going to like blow a bunch of money at a casino so that I'm broke again, so that it forces me to like get that feeling again?
So Ronnie and I, we talked about this a little while, and you were actually there for it. I think we decided, because you had this thing where you're like, okay, so you're always moving towards your North Star, right? And then I had this thing that I call it the perpetual carrot, right? So it's something that you're hungry for that you can never get to. And as long as you aim that in the right direction, you still have that hunger to work towards it, and it's going towards your overall goals. I think that helps mitigate because I know self-sabotage is real, 100%. That's, I think, a lot of the reasons that most people never get ahead. Like, I can think, like, as far as bliss and joy goes, like, just, whatever, however you want to define this type of bliss. When I was broke, man, like, same thing, dude. I've had to literally take ramen cups with me out whenever I let, and use hot water in 7-Eleven because I had no fucking money. Or I've had to bet on dates where I've had to pull to the gas station and give the gas station attendant 28 cents so I can get her home, and that's all I had. And I was like, well, if I run out of gas, it's fine, but I don't. So which embarrassment do I want? Or the car breaks down, no gas, or I only have 28 cents to give the gas station attendant. So I get that. But I can also say at that point in my life, I had a lot of bliss, dude, because I had basically, how would I define this? I think one of the reasons I had so much bliss at that point was because nothing was that consequential. I just accepted the lack of mobility, period. I just kind of like, so whatever I have, I would enjoy in the moment. It was like hedonism. I would just enjoy whatever's in the moment. Well, then you'll always stay in the moment, which is, to some people, that might make them happy. But I was thinking about this yesterday because I used to smoke cigarettes and drink, and I had so much joy. And now this thing I'm doing now is like, I do 24-hour fast every week. I'm just starting this and intermittent fasting, and I work out 5 to 6 days a week now. And what else? I pray every morning and night. Try to go to church every Sunday. Obviously, no more smoking, no drinking for 90 days. This is all just a 90-day thing now. Sleep 8 hours. I feel a lot better. but my body craves that lack of accountability, so I can just smoke and fucking drink. But that's not the man I want to become. You know, that's not the man I want to be. And it's like, it's a sacrifice. You're trading the pleasure now to have that long-term goal that is self-defined. I don't know if any of that bullshit helps you with what you're saying, but well, I don't know.
I think it further illustrates this idea, though, that when you're handing someone 28 cents, that is hard. That is a wall. That is like that's like a barrier that is like super strong, right? We all are successful enough to have enough money in the bank where maybe this happens to both of you too. We're not looking at prices of like, it's like I'm just fucking spending. And then on top of that, the other things that become more important to us, our health, our family, our relationships, there's no more quantitative data, right? The quantitative data, the tangible data before was like, I had $5 in my bank account and then I had $100. I'm like, holy shit, that's like, I got money. I could go out. I go days without heat or whatever. Now I have heat. Like, that's more quantitative. And now what I'm saying is like, it gets so much further apart, right? It's hard to say like, I have a good relationship with my daughter. How do you measure that, right?
You can measure it though.
I know you can, but it doesn't.
You can. But
it's not hard.
But
it's not like that physical kind of thing.
That's what I think. So I get what you want instant feedback.
Right, exactly.
Sure.
Going back to that.
That makes sense. Feedback. So create instant feedback. I think we have to like be able to how do I say it? You create like KPIs for yourself. You create goals, right? What do you call that? Not goals like I want to lose 100 pounds. It's like I want to run it every day. Lead versus lag, right? Yeah. So creating those lead goals, I think for everything, I think is the first step. Like if you can't be hungry anymore.
Right.
You have to accept that.
Right.
You accept it.
Right.
It's over.
Right.
It's done. Like that's it.
Thank God.
So now exactly.
It sucks.
But that doesn't mean that you can't force the issue and then force yourself to produce. Like even this morning, like I was like, damn, I don't want to go to the gym. But like Brandon Turner said this from Bigger Pockets. I was like, yo, for real. He said,
Bigger Pockets?
Huh?
Is that like a forum?
Guys, look up Bigger Pockets. He said, how you feel and what you do are two different things.
Absolutely.
And I was like, for a super logical guy like me, that's so helpful because there's so many times like today, I was like, I don't want to go to the gym. And I was like, and it's almost talking to myself like, oh, good job on acknowledging how you feel. Get up.
Yeah. it's so fucking true. Alex Ramirez talks about that a lot. He's like, the beautiful thing behind that message you just said is it's great because it means that you are not enslaved by your feelings. This is good news.
Exactly.
This is good news.
So that's what I think I think like even with Amaris, like I have this shit. I read the PBD book that came out, Know Your Enemies Wisely. Patrick Bet-David. You listen to the podcast. I love Patrick Bet-David. I love the podcast. Like, and he made such a good point. Like, he's like, master your calendar. Like, I have Valentine's Day prep a month before Valentine's Day, and then I have in my reminders prep for Valentine's Day every day. Like, I don't want to do it. Like I said, I'm not an emotional guy, so it's like it's hard for me. But like, if it pops out, I'll be like, okay. I'll be like, oh, this is gonna be boring and annoying. I don't want to do this. Okay, like, thank you for sharing, Ronnie.
Yeah.
Now fucking do it.
Yeah, I have a similar dialogue, like where it's like I'm like, man, I really don't want to. I'm like, well, that's fucking cute. Anyway, we gotta go do this. Like,
and just do it. Like, because I don't have anything driving me too much because I'm like, I'm good.
Right.
Like, so I use that. Like, I try to like catch my feelings immediately, like, and then try to acknowledge it and then do it anyway. Like, I'm doing cold plunges with my buddy. And same thing. It's like, I really don't want to do this.
I do the ice showers.
Yeah.
Cold showers 2 days a week. Yeah.
And but it's like, okay,
Sucks.
cool. Like,
hurts.
Now do it. You know?
So I'm able to do that. And I've done it like when I'm training for like triathlon or whatever, but what's interesting is like,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Just so I don't forget my thought. So keep in mind with a triathlon, that's a finite game because you're doing something for something that has an end goal.
And it makes it easier too.
Yes, because you know there's an end to it.
I'm doing this stuff for 90 days. That's not how I live my life. I hope I live my life that way. But you could always create another finite to get, you know what I'm saying, to make it an infinite road.
That's exactly that.
I don't want to cut you off, but I was like, before I forget that thought.
But that's exactly the whole thing with me with triathlons. It's like, it's not for the triathlon, it's for the training. Like I don't. So one thing I learned about myself, speaking, bringing back self-awareness, is like I do very well when I have a difficult goal ahead. Like it has to be something challenging. If it's too easy, I'm not gonna care.
Probably for you.
And then I have to have like some reason why I want to do it that's strong. But then the path between those two is often like an external kind of thing, right? And so for me to stay fit, I have to give myself like some physical challenge that's going to force me to like have to train. Otherwise I'm going to suck or drown or die or something. I don't know. And so like, that's why I do triathlons. It's to hold that piece. It's to have that hard line thing, right? That's the feedback. That's the feedback that I get that feels like there's an actual like barrier, right? Versus the focusing on the lead, which is like getting up and running 4 days a week. I don't know. It's a thing that I struggle with, and I really want to like get a lot better at staying hungry for that. I guess maybe it's staying hungry for the lead goals or staying hungry for the thing.
I think it's just create, like, yourself. Like, how far can you book a triathlon?
Almost a year.
Like, is there any other competitions that you can book 3 years from now?
3 years from now?
Yeah.
I wonder if you would put it off. Like going back to Parkinson's law, though, I wonder if you would like put off the training if you had 3 years. So maybe
I guess no, not just a 3 year one. What I'm saying is book a 1 year, book a 2 year, book a 3 year, and just keep that going.
Oh.
Yeah. And then maybe have like your overall.
Now you're just constantly staying in shape because you've got one. You're done with one to pray. Maybe
the goal was
that's a good hack.
Maybe the goal was to have 10 accomplished in 5 years, and you break it up to a year or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty good with that.
Or like too. 40 accomplished in 5 years, or like 50, whatever. I'm
not.
We're just gearing up.
I can't.
No,
maybe it's just that, but it's important. Like yourself.
Interesting.
So now it's just hacking what you know about yourself. Like if like after the year's end, just make sure there's another one right after.
Right.
So it's like, nah, motherfucker, it's not over. Yeah. Like
that's really good. That's a scary. That's like good. This is so it's so sometimes hacking yourself feels scary. You ever had that feeling?
I mean, you're playing like, Inception now, right? I'm not you're like going a level ahead. It's like, what's real? Like,
I don't think I'm at Ronnie's level of like knowing myself to hack myself yet, but I can see I think you're both above me on that when it comes to like hacking yourself or whatever, like knowing this is how I operate. I'm still very much like discovering phase. I think you're probably the furthest because you teach me a lot about this stuff. And I think you're further than me because you're already implementing certain things as well. I feel like I'm gaining awareness, but I need to learn how to hack myself better. It's very difficult for me to master myself, dude. I have so many it's very difficult for me to master myself. I don't even get into it. But
I have a question for you in that vein, right? And so this is something that takes practice, and literally, like, I know that I need to get one in before this quarter is over. How much time? This is such a weird thing. How much time do you spend with yourself, like by yourself, like alone, like
not
legit?
Including when I'm working?
No work. I mean, no distractions, no task. You just literally, not even like almost with the task of meditation.
Almost never.
Yeah.
Almost never. And it's very difficult for me. I'm like one of those people that like, I work better when I'm around people. I work better.
But you're not working in this case.
No, I mean, me as a person, I feel like I operate better with lower anxiety and everything else when I'm with other people. It's difficult for me to be by myself. Like you guys probably don't know this, but I have like clinical OCD where I had to get pulled out of school when I was when I was in elementary school. I had to get pulled out and homeschooled for a little while. And on all types of medicines and stuff. A few years, like 5 or 6 years ago, I had like a massive like upsurge where it was like I couldn't get out of my head for 6. it's for people that don't have it, it's hard to explain. But what I have, it's all types of OCDs. Mine was more scrupulosity, which is like kind of like an ethical thing, and also real event. And it was real event, where it's like analyzing things that have happened in the past. And like mine was very cognitive. So I could be stuck in my car for like, I would literally pull over, and I've cried, like just pulled over, just stuck in my head in these like infinite loops of like, what if this, and then as you're doing it, your memory starts to shift, and it sucks, dude. Like, and it was very difficult. But my point is, like, when I'm alone, let me rephrase. When I'm not alone and there's distraction, whether it's work or whatever else, it's a lot easier to stay away from like that part of myself. When I am alone, it's not that it's always like that, because it comes from the same place in my belief, where my brain's always firing off and has all these, and again, I'm not trying to be braggadocious. I think the sword cuts both ways. But I can come up with all these like almost like infinite ways to do this or that or whatever. Maybe this works and maybe that doesn't. And it just spider webs out of which direction of good things for how to accomplish my goals and how to get where I want to go and maybe see things differently. But that also can work against myself. When I've done that against myself before, where again, I mean, stuck in my head for hours and hours at a time, just in a car on the side of the road, like just can't even, would get home from work after 18, 19 hours. And I'd just spend the next 2 hours in my head, like just trying to get the fuck out of it, or watching a movie with my wife so she wouldn't be nervous. I'd stare at the wall instead so I could try to like, and it sucks. And then, you know, obviously with therapy and some medicine and all these other things, I was able to kind of get out of it mostly again. But it's difficult to, it's difficult for me to be alone, because I start directing that thought process that goes towards things. I start directing it against myself.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for sharing that. I mean, I think just in general, our society sucks at like sharing challenges that we're having, and then we feel like we're alone and
100%.
we're abnormal and all this stuff. So
we are abnormal. That's what makes us us. That's great. A normative standard is
it's not
like,
real.
It's like taking all the flavor off a person.
Yeah.
It's you got your good, you got your bad. You're working on hopefully you're working on getting rid of the bad and growing the good, whatever.
Yeah.
But I 100% agree. That's why I share that so openly with many people, when the context, I don't just go, hey, my name's Paul. By the way, have you guys ever heard me talk about that before?
No.
And I've known you for years. It just felt relevant right now because we're talking about being by yourself.
Of course.
So I don't go out of my way to mention it, but it's contextually, it seemed to be somewhat relevant.
One thing that I do when I'm alone, and I wonder if this
masturbate. We all do it.
I have a crowd. I don't know about you. I'm like Louis C.K. over here. I'm like, hey, you come over here for a second.
My station usually looks like this because I'm trying to get paid. You know what I'm saying?
But one thing that specifically, like when I say alone, I do mean alone. But for me personally, it has to be in nature. It has to be like by a stream or at the top of a mountain, or like something like that something that, you know what I say a lot? I want to feel small. Like, I don't want the focus to be on me. I want the focus to be on like God's creation.
As you're saying that, like memories are coming. I'm like, wait, that's also, if I'm alone in like, that's when I feel my most peace. When I go to like Milton Lake, I'm not even kidding. In nature, I do feel a lot more peace. As you're saying that,
it's normal.
It's a great like.
Now you're weird,
reminder.
bro.
Yeah.
No, but like, if that works for you, I think it would be interesting to experience that or challenge yourself to it. If it's not going to be harmful to you, to just go and just like literally like take a hike by yourself, get the blood flowing, and then just like sit and just like watch freaking hawks just like soar, and just like sun and trees. Man, there's just something about the earth that is so grounding for me, that it helps me to get out of my own like head. Just like, dude, like, and doing that process, right? Getting back to the awareness piece, doing that helps me to remember who I am. Because sometimes just being in society, I start to fall into the traps. Like, I start to fall into like, I'm a man, I have to do this, or I'm a dad, I have to do this, or I'm XYZ, I'm a black man, I have to do this other thing. It's like, no, I'm just a person. And like, here's the core of me, and just remember like who that is. Like that type of experience helps me to remember. And I literally, I know that I need it right now. I know I need it. That's why I'm saying, like, before this quarter is over, I literally put it on my goals last week. I was like, schedule self-retreat. Schedule self-retreat has to happen.
I should do that as well.
I think it's super important for you to start with you first.
Sometimes when my phone's dead and I'm pooping, like...
Even then, you probably got a tablet on you.
I'm just reading
You got Alexa. Alexa, play some background music.
I'm just playing with my daughter's bathroom.
Yeah.
Oh, Mr. Duck.
No, I think it starts with you, though. Like, a lot of people don't agree with it, but, like, I don't care. I'll be like, Maris, like, even I tell Maris all the time, like, yo, look, you don't want the crazy Ronnie. You don't want to see, like, if you think this Ronnie that's like fully nourished, like goes to the gym and all of that is still like not what you want, you don't want to meet the one that gets all that taken away from him. Trust me. And I'm big on that. I'm like, I got to be good first.
Scary.
I don't care. Like, I am unapologetic. Like, my kids first, not me. It's me first.
Yeah, but it's the oxygen mask
exactly.
thing.
Yeah,
I mean, like,
it's gotta be you first, because here's the thing: most people that can't say that, I'm gonna make a fucking big generalization, but I don't care. Most people that say that is because they don't want to deal with their own shit. So they say, "Oh, I'm being a hero by taking care of everybody else."
Absolutely.
No, motherfucker.
100%.
What you're doing is that you're
from
dealing with your own. You don't want to fucking face your own shit, so you're overcompensating. Not like, so I force myself, like, deal with your shit first, Ronnie. Then now I can be all there for Amaris.
Yeah.
And then after Amaris, then I'll be like, well, how my kids doing? I mean, that's it. Like, it has to be that way. So if you need like like your own day, be unapologetic to everyone. You do it, because no one knows. Like, Maris doesn't know me. You guys don't know me. No one knows me.
you don't know me.
Nobody. No one knows the real Prince and the sick thoughts that go through your head and the sick thoughts that go through your head. And even your wives, like right, the person that probably knows you the best, they still don't know the real you.
Yeah.
So you have to be, my opinion.
My wife vet me. She doesn't think I'm very refined, and she's even said this from stories she started. If I met you when you were young, like, I would have. Dude,
of course.
fucking wild. I was a young boy. Like,
Yeah.
it's fucking wild.
It's like a raging testosterone.
Dude,
Like,
absolutely. It's just like fucking 5'7" pale. Just
yeah.
like, you know,
Fucking.
but like, no, but yeah, dude. Like, again, I fancied myself to be relatively cool. I wasn't that fucking cool. I get that. I get that I wasn't cool. But like you said, the raging testosterone, the fucking aggression and smoking and drinking, like, just not. I mean, dude, I was probably considered an alcoholic by most, if not all, standards in like junior high school.
Yeah.
And just, I mean, I would just go to, that's when my parents like lost the house and shit. So
Yeah.
I'd just go take a bus to Rahway, be on top of abandoned buildings, and just, I mean, I'd climb a water tower and I'd drink a whole bottle of what is that called?
Everclear.
Not Everclear.
Jaeger.
No,
Goldschlager.
No, the shit that's
Oh my God.
the shit that's supposed to make you see shit, but
Absinthe.
Yes. And I'm just like on the top. And by the way, I didn't see shit. But like, I mean, I'm sure it was the wrong stuff or whatever. But like, again, that's just what I did. And in the Marine Corps, like, I had those constructs that helped bring me back to reality. But when I wasn't in those constructs, what was I doing? Fucking drinking and partying.
Yeah.
What did I do when I got out? Fucking drinking. I drank myself into the hospital like 3 times.
Yeah.
Like, and then I dramatically turned everything around about 25. My wife met me 3 months later.
Wow. That's amazing.
That's how it works, bro. But yeah, I think it's you first, man. Like, you're not gonna be able to help anybody, like, if you don't. So take your day.
yeah.
And like I said, they might be mad about it. Your kids might miss you. Like,
no, Ronnie. Here's the thing. What you said is true. I don't want to deal with my shit right now.
of course not. Of course
It's not my kids. It's not my wife. It's like, I don't want to do it, but I know I need to.
Exactly. So
do it.
this is a good opportunity to be like, acknowledge those feelings,
Right. And
then do it anyway.
Exactly.
Like, this is a great time to be like, okay, I understand that you don't want to do it because it's hard, and we are conditioned to like not want to do hard shit. Acknowledge it. It's cool to separate it. Be like, that's there. Now I'm still gonna do it.
Right.
But thank you for sharing. Right. Like,
Thank you for sharing.
kind of how I do with Abby. Right. It's like, Abby, thank you for giving me what you want to do. Thank you, but you're not doing it. But I'm thank you for explaining it. Thank you for telling me how you feel about it. But that's not
has to be
happening.
authentic,
Let me
right.
be clear.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
It's both are okay, but like, don't let that stop you. And it's annoying, and it's fucking, I get it. Like, but we all feel the same way. It's just who does and who doesn't is what separates who's gonna have the better life.
Yeah, I need to definitely. I'm working on it, obviously. As
You're always gonna be.
I was gonna say it's probably a lifelong mission. Being with myself and all that other stuff. Man, that's probably one of the reasons I like working so much, though, is like I'm not with myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like my wife thinks I'm a workaholic. I told her we have to define workaholic, because is it a workaholic? If to me, it's truly not work. It's passion. Yeah. It's interest. It's enjoyable. Again, that's why I like Alex Hormozy so much. He talks about all these things, and I'm just like, yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
Because he's a practitioner. Yeah. Like he hasn't gone from theory like he's not a professor yet. Because I feel like that's like I can't fuck with professors because I'm like, but you don't do it. It's hard for me to
there's a difference with being a participant
yes.
as opposed to a, what's that when you're just,
I just say theory versus practice.
Yeah, but Barbara from Shark Tank called it a really good thing. She explained it really well.
Yeah.
And she also agrees with the people that have like that trauma in the past and being her most successful people.
Makes sense.
But yeah, absolutely. But what does she say? Yeah, there's observer. It's like one person has been a participant, and the other person's been an observer. You can go to the finest schools, you can do all this other stuff, you can learn about it, like you said, theory, but you're an observer. And the analogy I always give to people to break this up is like boxing, because in my opinion, nothing's much more consequential than fighting, right?
100%.
So you can read about every boxer, learn about the physics of boxing, watch the videos, study the videos and everything else for 4 years. You take a kid who's been training, none of that education, but been training for 4 months, he'll beat the shit out of you.
100%.
He'll fuck you up. Yeah. You know it all, but you haven't done it.
Yeah.
And that's what do they say? The best way to learn about business is being in business.
Just do it.
I've learned so much more. I did some business school shit and everything else, but I learned so much more from being a participant. And like, I can't tell you how often I don't necessarily really know what I'm doing. I go to it and then I figure it out.
Yep.
And now I know, and then I figure it out. And that's where that's honestly, if I have been relatively successful for the amount of time I've been doing this, I credit that.
For sure.
At first I credit Jesus.
Yeah.
100%. Like, afterwards, I think one of my gifts is I'm willing to step into situations that I'm not 100% sure what to do, confident that I will figure it out.
Exactly. It's like, again, a Brendan Turner quote. When he talks about driving in the fog, and he's like, he knows where he's going, but like, he can only see 5 feet in front of him. And he's like, I just take it 5 feet at a time, right? Like, I just look 5 feet, next 5 feet, next 5 feet. And he's like, I'm just, you also have to have, by the way, which I think religion helps, and we can wrap it up after this, but like,
you can talk about any real estate.
A belief.
Yeah, belief system.
Like an undeniable belief, like faith, right? You got to have faith, which I think religion does such a good job at that, right? Like you can't see it, you have to believe in it. But that I think translates to other things, right? Like that same belief of like, it's big, it's so far, but like I believe that because I chose to believe in it, like now it's real and now I can go after it.
Yeah, and also I think that helps in a lot of ways because it depends how do you define success, right? So for me, like money doesn't make, this is me, you can parameterize it for yourself.
Of course.
To me, money doesn't make you successful. Brandon Turner, again, talks about a lifeonaire as opposed to like a millionaire or a billionaire or whatever, a lifeonaire. And I really like that because to me, the highest, most noble calling is to be a good follower of Christ, to be a good Christian, right? Now, am I one? No, I'm trying. And believe me when I say I believe that's like almost it seems like an infinite pursuit to me. Like, I don't know if I'll ever be there, but that's why he died for us. So, my point is like, so if I'm not necessarily successful in real estate or investing or whatever else, well, that's fine. My foundation's still there. My foundation didn't change. Meanwhile, am I honoring my values along the way? As long as I honor my values and I can surrender the outcome. Like am I good at this? Am I bad at this? That doesn't matter. Yeah. Honor your values along the way. They're like bumpers on bumper bowling. 100%. It keeps you going the right path. Will you hit a strike? Will you hit nothing? I don't know. But at least I hopefully won't fall into the gutters.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah.